Toby, just the first question. What's the challenges this week after the emotional high of Saturday? Another big game, 6 days on. What are the challenges as a coach this week to get the players ready for this occasion on Friday?
The first one's a logistical one. On short notice, trying to get to Munster with a full, healthy squad after the trials and tribulations of a 51-week season. So that's the first one. But we've got ourselves to the window of opportunity, as we say. So we're excited about it, and I think it's just about understanding and the challenge that awaits, from the occasion, as much as the rugby itself. So I think that dealing with that occasion is definitely a challenge and something we've talked about, and how we get to show our best, because against the very best, that's not always easy, and understand that it's not about, always getting your own way, and sometimes you're going to have to suffer and hang in there for a bit.
And the 6 day turnaround, same for both sides, except as you say, they're over there and they don't have to go anywhere, whereas you do. I mean, what are the challenges of that, just in terms of the physical nature of a 6 day turnaround?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we've done this week has been obviously tailored towards that, giving appropriate recovery, as well as the stuff you have to practice and perform. We're not going to get greater skill in a week. Really, it's about practicing the skills that we're going to need and rehearsing what we need to do, and then it comes down to a question about going out and doing it. So, look, we're in knockout rugby. We know that often it's about who does what on the day, right? There's no second chances. We learned that against Gloucester, and against Sale in Europe. So we have experienced that before. So that's good experience for us to almost dwell on or remind ourselves of, and as a result we can then enjoy and probably be as positive and philosophical about the whole situation as we want to be.
Can you draw on the Gloucester game? Because I can remember you saying you perhaps were a little bit frustrated that you didn't. I think the word you said, you didn't see the best of yourselves in that match, particularly in certain parts.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was elements of that in the Cardiff game as well, to be fair. But it wasn't there the week before against the Dragons, and against the very best you get tested, and that's what playing against the very best is all about. And so we've got to make sure that we're robust above anything else, because that gives you the very best chance.
Just housekeeping, have you lost anyone from last week? Anybody else available, or was it pretty much as you were?
No, pretty much. We're pretty much the same.
And if somebody told you at the end of September, Toby, that you were going into the quarter-final playoff against Munster away, you'd have taken that, wouldn't you?
I would have said, that's the plan, yeah. Exactly. And as you know, a glass half full is the internal optimist. I can't believe you boys have been quoting me as an optimist. That's unbelievable. No, it's, yeah, of course, that's what we're in it for. And if you've got to dare to dream. And that sounds a little bit, carrying away from, but on the backdrop, and there's always context to everything. We set out at the start that we were going to get, our goals were to get to the playoffs, to get to the knockout stages of Europe, okay, and win the World Shield. They were our three objectives. And, as we say, in the week before that, we've achieved all three of those. And now everything is, a stretch target, if you want. And, we've done that. And that's a credit to everybody involved with the group. And that's, as you said, the overriding emotion after the game was pride, and that's still definitely part of what we do. But we're here now, so let's swing for the fence and give it a good go.
And a good news story in Welsh rugby, which is welcome at the moment.
Oh yeah, for sure. And look, we it's if Welsh teams are successful, everybody wins, and that's really important.
Just a couple more, Toby. Welsh squad announced this week, and we're starting the positive. Keelan Giles, somebody who's, came on 18, 19, burst on the scene, been through so much in adversity with sort of injuries, and has battled back, and has been really good this season. Just a word on his inclusion and the reward for the work that he's put in. Yeah,
delighted for him. Good reflection on how our game has expanded. So from an attacking side, because he's on the score sheet a lot, has great ability to beat people one-on-one, and turn. Is a special athlete in that respect. So, yeah, delighted for him and the work he's been through, and it's a reflection of how the team has played.
It's not the first time we've asked you this when squads are out, but I'll ask you again. No Morgan Morris and Nicky Smith. Just thoughts on them, just in the way they played for you, and perhaps they're not involved in this Welsh squad.
Yeah, I'd probably add James Ratty to that as well, to be honest. Look, we know that international rugby and regional rugby is different. And I've said the same answer as I've said before, that only the people that are picking the respective squads and teams for particular games and campaigns know what they're really looking for. And it suggests the fact that they've got what Morgan Morris has got in their squad. So we know what we need to keep working on. Morgan Morris is absolutely determined, and James Ratt and all the boys, Nicky Smith obviously will finish with us and then go to Leicester, but they're all adamant to keep fulfilling their potential and play at the very highest level. So, it's a setback, but we'll keep going, as we've done with players before. We will support them. We will promote our players as we see fit. I'll obviously defend my players, for sure, as you said. And you've seen performances against high-class opposition that have been good. It suggests that, as you said, people that have been picked in front of them have delivered that sort of performance.
And do you, when guys are sort of touted maybe externally, and the squad comes up, do you have to speak to certain guys who might have thought they had a chance? As a regional head coach, what is that process like in Wales Squad Week?
Of course, and there's, we're quite open about it, and we talk about it privately with the individuals, but also, we obviously try to seek feedback to give them, get them back on track, really, if it's a negative side, but celebrate as well if it's a positive side. So, yeah, I mean, we've had these conversations. We've talked about it in team meetings previously about how we support people and how, when people need our help. And as I said, we're a tight-knit group that look after each other. So if it's positive, we're all positive about it. If it's potentially negative, we're all supportive. And, that's what keeps this group hanging tough together.
And you've won 14 games this year, more than the other Welsh sides to put together. You've got 6 in. Scarlet's got 6, Dragons got 5, Cardiff have got 9. Fair representation, do you think, for you?
Again, it's bore you with the same answer, but they know what they want. Those people that have been picked must have delivered more of what they want in the areas that they want it. So, we can't control that. But, we're going to Munster this weekend against a very, very strong team. Obviously high Irish representation, current champions, number 1 in the league. It'll be, we're looking forward to seeing how those individuals you talk about, and all the other individuals, to be fair, are gonna play against the very best. And that's a good gauge for it, like they've done, as was pointed out, against others, but also, people like that we played against the Stormers and Ulster that are at high strength, and it's easy to cherry pick certain bits and pieces, but there's other comparable stuff. But as I said, the real thing is it's Warren's choice, and we're respectful of that. But ultimately, the people in front of him must have done what he wants them to do.
And just Munster and Graham Rowntree, they're obviously defending champions, number 1 in the league. Graham Rowntree is somebody you know very well, going back a long time.
Yeah.
What has he done there, and what are you expecting from him on Friday?
Yeah, Wig's done a great job, right? So he's obviously, I've known him a long time, from when he was, with England and bits and pieces like that. So, a very competitive individual himself as a player and as a coach, and his team represent that. And I think that's the overriding thing. And he's taken them to the next level after Van Graan. So he's delivered on that. And to be fair, they've come from adversity as well, because there's been parts of their season that hasn't gone results-wise as they'd like, but they've ended up at the top. So that tells you that they've got a really, again, like us, a tight group with a lot of quality in it that knows how to win, and that makes them a very dangerous opponent.
Thank you, Toby. Good luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Hi, Toby. How are you?
Good, Steph. Thanks. You?
Yeah, good, thanks. We all know about the sort of challenges in Welsh rugby this season with budgets and whatnot. Can you sum up how much of an achievement this is for the Ospreys, given everything that's surrounding Welsh rugby with the negativity, the financial side of things, and perhaps you haven't got as big a squad as some of your rivals as well?
What challenges are they then?
Well, you know,
I'm
the
joking. I'm
financial
joking.
ones.
I'm joking. No, I think it's. I think the big one obviously is, you know, you can turn. You've got to see the glass half full opportunity. So I think it starts with the attitude of the people involved. You know, from the very top to the very bottom, and you know, the find a way mantra that's been quoted by myself ridiculously amount and picked up by you guys is, you know, that we honestly try and do that. You know, and so I think it starts with a mindset first and foremost. You've heard me talk about being the best we can be, working as hard as we can, and we can't be better than what our talent decides. But what we can be is be what we can be as often as possible, and as you know, be an every time team. So I think that's the sort of mantra, if you like, that sits behind it. And we've done our best to control what we can control. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet, you know. I mean, irrespective of the, you know, the other three regions, and you know, it happens to be us. It could be different next year. Injuries, we've managed to be good around that. So I think our ability to be resilient around the injuries has been great. Just about hung on there and limped through at times, but we've still got the job done, and that speaks volumes. So I think, yeah, those things have been really important for us, and we've just tried to stay in our lane really, and work on the things that we can have control of. So I think that's the recipe for getting us where we are, but ultimately it's the attitude of the people involved above anything else. So, you know, when it goes down again next year, the recruitment's going to be under more pressure. Yeah, we'd all love stellar squads of 60 people that have got, you know, ridiculous amount of international quality in it, but the reality is that we haven't that. So we've got to make our own. We've got to make our own international players. We've got to make sure the pathway is very strong for long term. I mean, I'm just pleased that we started this journey on my arrival about backing our own and growing our own, because if we didn't, we certainly wouldn't be sitting here talking about a quarter final for sure. So, yeah, we've gone through a process. All the things that I've just talked about are really, really important. But the thing that overrides it all is, you know, we'll try and find a way, whatever we get, and we have to be understanding about what the expectation is and versus the capability, and that's always a difficult thing to understand.
Yeah, in terms of this weekend's game, whenever you come up against Munster, especially out there, they're gonna really test you physically, aren't they? In terms of the set piece and whatnot. That's an area of your game that's been strong this year, hasn't it? The set piece, and you've got a strong backbone. So I suppose, you know, my question is, I suppose you're going to back yourself this weekend, aren't you, physically? Because you're going to have to match Munster, aren't you, if you are going to sort of cause an upset. Yeah,
we did that really well at home this year against them, and you know, and earned some a bit of respect, you know, about that, I think. But similarly, the year before when we were away, we didn't, and got on the receiving end of a 50-pointer. So from that point of view, being at home, it makes a difference. You know, the support they have is phenomenal, especially when it comes to, you know, big matches. As I said, being part of that occasion is a great thing to be a part of, and really exciting for everyone concerned. But you cannot underestimate how difficult this is going to be. So, you know, we've got a lot of it. We've got some experience in our team, as well as being young, and those people, like you saw last week, you know, we talked about, you know, how good Nicky Smith and Justin Tipuric were. You know, those sort of older players that have been there, you know, are important when it gets to these experiences, because you just want the youngsters to go out and play their normal game, and let the experienced guys deal with the experience, as it were.
Yeah, assuming he's selected, it'd be a big game for Dan Edwards as well, wouldn't it? Because, like Warren Gatland was saying in press this week, that these sort of big knockout games where it's two fully loaded teams, especially away from home, are the sort of games he judges players on. I know he's a work in progress, but this will be a big challenge for him, won't it? And I'm sure he'll be up to it. But
yeah.
What's your general thoughts on his development and the challenge for him this weekend?
I mean, obviously, people have seen, you know, in the shop window. You know, I saw him in pre-season, you know, on the back of his under-20 stuff, and I thought this guy's going to be a good player. You know, because above anything else, he's got a good skill set. He's bright, and he's got the personality for the role. So, you know, I think that means he's an exciting prospect for sure. As you say, like any player, but particularly in that position, there's nothing that prepares you more than time in the saddle. and the more games you play, the better you get, whether they're big games or not. Playing in front of a crowd is different. Playing as a young man, getting used to that. And the good thing, as I said, he's a resilient, confident young man. That, for example, today, said, "Oh, can we have some when we warm up? Can we get some music out on the warm up paddock?" Because I think it's a good idea. Now, he's not a shrinking violet, and he's dictating what's going on as the quarterback, and he also wants to influence the environment. And those players are great because they all shape and show leadership. And others want to follow. So I think that, as you say, he's got a lot to go. It'd be an exciting fixture for him, and we're looking forward to see how he goes out there.
Great, thanks for answering my questions, and good luck in the weekend.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
What was the musical choice, Toby?
Oh, I'm far too old to have that. To have an instinct that it was. It was modern enough for me not to know, and enjoyable enough for them to enjoy their warm up. So I can't actually answer.
Well, that's probably the best way you want it, really, isn't it? So,
yeah, it's about them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Can I just ask you, picking up on? I know you wouldn't be drawn much on the numbers in the Wales squad, but that idea that you've expressed about finding a way in matches, you need players who are tactically adaptable and flexible and maybe emotionally flexible as well. Do you think fundamentally that's a different type of skill set to what Wales are looking for? That they don't really want flexibility. It's more about, for them, they've got a set way of playing. It doesn't really change much from season to season, maybe decade to decade. That is the difference. There's a mindset difference.
Maybe. I mean, obviously, I can only comment on our stuff, and I'm not avoiding the question. I mean, for the first part, I think if our injury list wasn't what it was, I think we'd have significantly more. So, in relation to the balance, So I think that's definitely part of that ratio that you talk about. And again, I won't repeat the stuff about Warren knows what Warren wants, and Toby knows what he wants, and those things, as you say, are different. But the only thing I'd probably offer extra is the modern game requires flexibility, as you say, adaptability for sure, and we have to be really clear on what we are, but also within that there has to be degrees of smartness in certain positions or flexibility, adaptability to the context of the game, the referee and whatever. So, we're quite strong on building players to take ownership. As the cultural element for us is, this is your team, and we try and provide an environment for you to grow in it as a person as well as a player. And we have the luxury of doing that because we have them for long periods of time. And we understand that there are bumps in the road around that, especially around young players. So there's got to be enough support and challenge in our programme, and an environment where people can, grow a little bit without the fear of making a mistake. And I think that's really important in what we're trying to do here, because that's where your leaders come from. So I think that the nature of what we do lends itself to that. And by default, you get those sort of players.
Right. Are you suggesting then that when your time frames are smaller, as they are in international rugby, players have to be more rigid and basically play to instruction?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I think you meet a variety of different situations, probably more regularly. So the pace of how you learn it is probably different. Whereas the reality of international rugby and the calibre of the players on the side means there's probably less margin, and a quicker need to adapt. So I think that is part of it. But that's how you fast track experience, really, and rugby IQ and all those sort of bits and pieces. So I think the nature of the contest is different, which means the need for those sort of players are important.
Yeah, that idea of finding a way, though, it kind of resonates, doesn't it, in Welsh rugby over the years, that Welsh teams have always had that. I mean, back in the day, they would call it just Welsh craftiness. The ability.
Yeah.
You might get beaten up front, but there would be moments in a game where a bit of streetwise would get.
Yeah, I mean, growing up watching Wales play, and when I came here, we wanted to play a certain way that represents that. Now we've taken probably a little bit longer to get to that because we want to be an attack-based team and we'll play in a certain way, but we want to make sure the fundamentals of our game are very strong, which is what was Stefan alluded to around set piece, and that's probably my English Premiership history sort of coming out there. But I think it's important if you look at the sides that are you look at the Irish sides, look at the French sides and whatever. It's a balance of it's always going to be a balance, right? New Zealand, South Africa win World Cups on just purely that, but we haven't got the physical specimens necessary that we go. So by default, you need to be crafty or streetwise and understand what works for you. So I think from our point of view, it's how we negate people's physical challenge oftenly and turn the game into a game that we want it to be a little bit more fast, I suppose, and dynamic, because we need to overcome just brute force, because we don't always have that amount of power. And that also comes around because, if your squad depth and your injury depth is what it is, you sometimes lose considerable people in that. I mean, I make no bones about it, getting Jack Morgan, Dowie Lake, James Ratty, Morgan Morris on the pitch increases your ability to carry,
Yeah.
But similarly, no Alex Cuthbert, no George North reduces your ability. So you've got to have flexibility, both as a coach and as a team, and understand how you solve the puzzle.
Great. Thanks, Toby. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Toby. I suppose if you're looking for inspiration, we were talking about the bookies odds, and you're not going into this game as favourites. But if you're
2%, I like those odds. They were good. So you're saying we got a chance, yeah?
higher than 2%, you'll be glad to know. But if you're looking for inspiration, funnily enough, it's probably Munster last year that you'd be quoting as the example of a team that was written off a long way through. Most of their away games on the way to the title.
Yeah, well, that's a double-edged sword, because Munster away for us was not a very pleasurable experience last year, I hasten to add. But Munster as an entity, yeah, I suppose you're right. I've not really thought about it. But again, when it comes down to this part of the season, it's about people that execute on the day. And if you look at their running last year, which we all watched and actually supported, because it was a bit of an underdog story, and everyone loves an underdog story, but they're not the underdogs anymore, they're the favourites. So we can take that mantle a little bit. So they just showed you that if you get it right on the day, you've got a chance, and that's what knockout rugby is all about.
And also, it's the first time under URC that you've had representatives from all 5 nations, stakeholders, whatever you want to call them, in the quarterfinals. It's a while since there've been Welsh representatives through. Is any of that wider picture of interest or concern to you, or are you just purely looking at what you've got in front of you? Sponsors
love it, URC sponsors love it, because that diversity, opens up different groups, So I'm very aware of the commerciality of that, and also, why that's important to keep the buoyancy in rugby, really, because there's a lot of doom and gloom, not just Welsh rugby, but in relation to, franchises and teams going under financially. So I think we've all, if we don't have positivity around it, I think that the danger is that, rugby's just going to keep shrinking, and we've got to grow it. We've got to get more, from the bottom. We've got to get more people playing, more people interested, more people coming to watch, more games that are interesting. However we get there, the big picture, and this is without my Ospreys hat on, it just happens to be, my opinion is we need to, sell the game in order to make it in as much as a healthy state as possible, because there's been plenty to complain about. We need to give it things to champion.
We're talking about tonight, and you're saying that the URC TV figures, crowd figures, everything is growing everywhere, but it's growing more slowly in Wales than everywhere else. So, yeah, as you say, it's a time maybe not to focus on that negativity and to focus on things like, your quarterfinal success and trying to match, the growth in everyone else.
Well, I think that first and foremost, people follow success. It's a natural phenomenon, right? So getting Wales successful, Welsh region successful, will only give resonance to people that want to be associated with success. There's enough people that love rugby in this country, for sure. You know, and that's really important to understand that. But we've got to tap into that and drive that and grow that, not to, you know, to then get people to talking about, well, it was better 30 years ago. So, you know, that time is gone. The time that we have is now, and how we've got to make that better, and how we promote it, how we get good, you know, good stories. You know, everyone being on the same page. You know, so like, you know, to show a more joined up approach to, you know, get the WRU, for example, you know, reposting and having supportive comments when regions go well, and that was earlier in the season. There was a bit of that, you know. We were at a conference where, and it showed the interactions between unions and their provinces and regions and whatever. And the more joined it up, the more visibility there is, the greater our chance, and the little things become bigger things. So I think at every level, if we can promote it, you know, we all should do that.